Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans, getting a little extra practice in today, along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Hey, welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Thanks for joining us. You can reach us at 866-594-4150. We'd love to take your call and get you on the air. Today is a historic day, Shannon.
Let me think about why it would be a historic day today. September 5th, 2024 is when we're doing the live show. Mm-hmm. Why would that be historic?
Because once we're done with it, we'll put it in the history files and people can go back and listen to it. We'll put it in the history files and people can go back and listen with it. We'll put it in the history files and people. I got that fixed.
I expected more when you asked that question, Russ. I really did. I thought there'd be something that I'm typically forgetting about, which I usually do.
That's all right. No, there's nothing special going on. I did look, we got some calls coming in already. We'll get to those in just a second, but I took notice of something. I like electric cars because of just the coolness of some of them, a little fun to drive now and then, but definitely you can't force them on people, and it's got to be everybody. It's like a hobby. You got to, if you want it, it's up to you. But I did notice a production thing yesterday that caught my eye that was a little surprising, but I guess when you compare it to regular cars, it's not gas cars, but every 13 seconds, a new Tesla rolls off the assembly line. So I watched them on YouTube building these things, and every 13 seconds, there goes another one. There goes another one. There goes another one. So beginning to end, no matter what car you look at, that's pretty impressive. And other cars, when you combined all the models and everything coming out, there are dozens of cars coming out every second. If you combine Toyota, Ford, Chrysler,
that's kind of wild to think about that.
Yeah, if we were sitting in our parking lot here, and the cars in the world, if you took every car rolling off an assembly line right this second in the world and started piling them in our parking lot, we'd have like 24 cars every second just going, just popping up all over. That's a lot of iron being made every second.
That's quite a perspective to put it in as I sit here and think about what you're saying.
And they're running 24 hours a day. This is not just, when I say every 13 seconds, they're running their assembly line 24 hours, so they're cranking these off. Well, that's how you get 1 million of a model made every year. That's a lot of cars. But you look at that and you think, every one of us should be driving a new car, right?
I was, at one point, we had an opportunity to be in the Janesville assembly plant in Wisconsin before they closed it. And at the time that we were there doing some work in the plant, there was 1,200 and whatever Suburbans, Tahoes, Yukons coming off that assembly line in a day shift. And another 1,200, if I remember right, coming over in the night shift. Or it was a little less in the night shift, not quite as many.
So 100 an hour.
Yep. And that was the big Suburbans, Tahoes. That would have been 03, 04, and then again in 07, 08. 07, 08 is when we were kind of last there. And that's kind of just when you think about a big, huge, complicated vehicle.
So you were there when my old green one was rolling off the assembly line.
Very possibly.
In 04.
Very possibly could have been, Russ.
We're going to jump right into the phones here, and we're going to talk to Larry in Iowa with an 09 Malibu. Hello, Larry.
Hello. How are you guys?
We're great. Thanks for asking. How is your Malibu, though? It doesn't sound like it's good if you're calling us.
It is not doing very well. Okay, so I got a lot of information. So my daughter, it's my daughter's car. She came to our campsite over the weekend, and it had a reduced power. The codes that I had in it are 2135, a P0122, and a P0222. Okay, so being at the campground, I threw the parts cannon at it, throttle body, pedal, and also the connector. I did find a broken wire on the connector. It was the gray 5-volt reference wire, I believe it was. I did find that, but it's still reduced power. The 2135 went away, but I still have the 122 and the 222. So I've tried. I've tried to test the throttle body as much as I can. So on my scan tool, I could see the voltages move up and down if I moved it manually, but it tells me that it's disabled. So I had a mechanic at work here. He told me to, put the battery cables together. I did that yesterday, and now I have 0 voltage on either one of the sensors, sensor 1 or sensor 2. But if I do unplug the sensor 2 does go to the 5 volts. So I don't know if I have a PCM problem or if I have a wiring problem. I need a little bit of direction, I guess.
You're going to have to check your wires just to be sure, because if it dropped out suddenly and it was working fine, you'll definitely want to check those from the throttle body back to the PCM. But it is a very strong possibility you've got a PCM that failed. We have seen a number of the PCMs fail in the GM cars where we've had to replace them because of this very problem. You get a reduced power, throttle body codes, or even just a reduced power with no codes, and we can step on the pedal and we get nothing as far as the APP 1 and 2 correlation. There's no movement up and down for that accelerator pedal position voltage. But if we push on the throttle body, we'll get a voltage change, like you said. We'll see that. So there's no input coming in but from the pedal that it can read, but there is voltage feedback from that throttle body. So if you check all your wiring and all your wiring is good and you've already changed that throttle body and then maybe the pedal too, it's likely you've got a computer issue, and that would have to be replaced and then programmed in order to make it work.
Is that car ever had any wounds? Has it ever been damaged or wet or anything in its lifespan that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it is a I bought it used as well. And it does almost have like 200,000 miles on it. As far as the wiring loom back to the PCM, I did check that. I didn't find like any chafing or, I was looking for like contact points, or whatever, for that. And I couldn't find any of that. As far as the pedal, I can see that the pedal goes from 0 to 100% on the scan tool, but as far as, so I don't,
if you got 0 to
but that's
0 to 100% there with nothing coming out is typically a computer issue.
Yeah.
If you swap throttle bodies on it.
Okay.
All right. Well, good luck with her.
All right.
I'm impressed
thank
with
you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm impressed with the knowledge that you have and all the things that you did with the firing the parts can, and I like hearing that, but not paying the bill.
All right. Take care, Larry.
Being at the campground, that's what I had. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I've seen a lot of repairs done at campgrounds successfully. I had a guy that works for us up at the shop that took a truck and completely, took that thing apart and basically rebuilt it in the campground, trying to get it going. And hey, he got the thing going and back on the road again. So that's sometimes you've got to do what you got to do to keep your vehicle going, and you can't really take it to a shop. If you do have to take it to a shop while you're on the road, that's big bucks. And nothing worse for a mechanic than to have pay some other mechanic who knows everything.
So necessity becomes the mother of invention, as they say.
We're going to take a short break. You can reach us at 866-594-4150 and get under the hood. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
More powerful than spilled milk in the backseat of a hot car. This is Under the Hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. We're going to jump right back into the phones, and we're going to talk with Don in Minnesota, who has a 2019 F350 Ford. Hello, Don.
Hey, good morning.
How's it going today? What's up with the F350? 18?
Well, it's actually a 2018. I don't know if that matters, but it's
yeah, that's fine.
I don't know. It's a 6.2 gas F350, and I don't know. Sometimes when you start it, it'll take off just like it should, and the next time it'll turn over, and then it'll fire, and then it'll shake and stuff, and then when it does start, it runs really good. It just probably 3/4 of the time it starts the way it should, and the 25% of the time it'll turn over like it's not firing.
That sounds to me like you're getting like you got a fuel issue, like the fuel's bleeding down, or you're getting air in the system or something, and it's not allowing it to start, because especially if it runs a little rough once it does fire, but then it's fine. So is it worse in the cold than the warm or anything like that?
No, it doesn't matter if it's 10 below or 90 above. It acts the same way. And that's what I was thinking too, is like a fuel drain back, and it takes a couple seconds to pump it up there. But I actually took it into a Ford dealer, and first thing they did is pull a coil out, and then they said there was a coil down in the coil, and then another guy said that grease that they put in there from like the factory, that'll turn white after a while. It's kind of a grease, but it'll turn white after a few years or something. So I don't know if it's corrosion or if it's that. I forget, what do they call that grease they put on there?
Dielectric grease?
Yeah, it's dielectric grease.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Dow Corning 111. I think it's Milex or something like that. I just ordered some for my jet ski. That's the only reason
they make a dielectric oil as well too for insulating and protecting electric motors and keeping them cool. So I bought a sump pump for my son-in-law when I was out in Washington to drain the pool, the small pool for the kids. And the sump pump, I was using it, and it stopped working. I was trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm kind of checking it, looking at it, and I see this plug on the top of it. I'm like, what's a plug for? It doesn't say do not remove or anything. So I'm like, oh, it's a rubber plug. Maybe it's got a reset button in it, right? That makes sense. Electric motor. Pull the plug out. And pulled the plug out. Couldn't see anything in there, so I heard something sloshing around, so I turned it upside down, and I went, oh, there's water in the pump. Well, it's pretty hot. Well, that's weird. This feels like weird water. That's weird. So I said, no, maybe I shouldn't do that. And I dumped about half of it out, and it turned out it was dielectric oil. And I looked to see how much dielectric oil was. I looked on Amazon, because where else do you buy dielectric oil? Because we called Ace, they didn't have it. And it was like $100 a quart. And I'm thinking the sump pump was $89. So no, I'm not going to buy any. So like, it's half full. We're going to take our chance, and when it dies, it dies. But yeah, that dielectric grease, it definitely will turn white with age, and it's a good insulator too. So a lot of people will put it on the end of the spark plug. It shouldn't go there. It'll make contact, and same way with light bulbs. It's supposed to go on the surface around it, not on the contact area, to keep the water out. But that, I've never seen that cause a hard crank issue like you have. I'm leaning more towards a problem with the fuel system. Either you've got a fuel control module that is corroded on the backside and failing, or you've got a lack of fuel pressure. What you might do is you can cycle the key a couple times before you start it every single time. Try that for a couple weeks. If you know it's going to do it every couple days at least, or every week, just turn the key on, wait about 3 seconds, turn it off 3 seconds, turn it back on for 3 seconds, and then fire it up. Try that. Just do that every time. It's not. It'll only take you a few 6 extra seconds. And if it starts every single time,
that makes sense.
Yeah, then it's 100%. It's a fuel issue.
Once some of them, once you turn the key on, you can hear the fuel pump kick in.
Yep. Yeah. So if you do that, and it definitely starts every single time, on one of these, you can almost bet it's the fuel pump that's failing. The check valve in it has just got some buildup of carbon from the fuels, additives and stuff build up on it, and it's just bleeding back. And it'll probably need a fuel pump. I have not seen an injector problem in one of these yet, so I would say it's we'd lean more towards a fuel pump.
One quick question: do you use a consistent supply of fuel from the same place every time, or is this a flex fuel by chance or anything?
Yeah, it's a flex fuel, but I've never put that in there. And no, I guess I don't buy it consistently at the same place. I just, whenever I need it or whatever's cheapest, I guess I put in there, because it likes gas.
Because that does bring another element into the system, that they have some sort of a sensor for the alcohol content that would be an opportunity to be intermittently failing, and then could cause a hard start if it's not reading the correct alcohol content.
Yeah.
That's just another thing that you got to put into the formula when it's a flex fuel to consider that. So it's
Okay.
and I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's just another piece if that is a flex fuel
No.
vehicle. So
I bet. Does that help you out, Don?
To me, that makes more sense. I've talked to other mechanics, Ford mechanics, and they said they very seldom see coils go bad, especially all 8 of them,
For a hard start, right? Misfire down the road, but never a hard start.
exactly.
Issue like this.
Misfire coils are a huge possibility, but not starting, not typically.
All right. Thanks for the call, Don.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you for returning my call.
You bet. Take
Bye.
care. All right, we're going to jump right back in. We're going to talk to Cole in Wisconsin with a 2004 Lexus. How you doing, Cole?
Hey, good morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. You're good.
Awesome. Well, okay, so this is the second vehicle for us, and recently the power steering has been going out intermittently, and kind of figured out that it's after the engine's fully warmed up. If it's cold and it's cold out, power steering works fine. As soon as it gets warm, power steering goes out. I figured maybe the belt was slipping or something along the lines of that. Got underneath the car, and I also noticed the water pump is leaking and the power steering pump is leaking. What do you guys think?
What kind of Lexus is this?
It's an ES330 with the 3.3 V6.
All right.
So it's like a very nice overdone Camry, or Avalon, which is something we're familiar with.
Yeah, if that power steering is leaking on the belt or the water pump is leaking on the belt, the belt's gonna slip, especially under load when you're trying to turn it, and it will reduce the steering assist or completely kill it. So if you're trying to turn it, the belt will move, but the pulley will stop. And sometimes you could see it. Open the hood and watch it. Maybe you need a flashlight to do it, and have somebody turn the wheel while you're sitting parked with it in park. You don't have to put it in gear, and try to turn it. And if they turn that wheel and you see that pulley stop turning, and I've seen it just literally stop, won't move, and the belt's spinning around it like crazy,
You can witness it.
that's your problem. Then you'll need to replace the power steering pump or whatever's leaking in the power steering, the lines, hoses, whatever it is, and that water pump too. But I'd take a look at that. But that's still a car that's got some value, even as a second car, good school car. It's still worth some money, so it's definitely worth. I've got people putting engines in these still and transmissions, so it'd definitely be worth putting a water pump and power steering repairs on it to get her going again.
Okay, yeah, it does have 200,000 on it, but we love it, and from what I've heard, those are pretty reliable.
It's a reliable engine, yeah. I mean, that's just broke in for one of those for that year Toyota design engine. And some of the newer ones I'm not so sure about anymore, but for that year, you still got a ways left, probably.
Yeah, the thing you want to watch out for,
Okay.
if you start having power steering fluid leaking from within if it's coming out where the rack and pinion is at, if it's seeping out the boots that accordion back and forth on the rack and pinion, and you start seeing problems there, then you've got a deeper problem with a seal that's out or something within the rack and pinion itself. That becomes a larger repair.
Yeah.
But the pump itself, pain in the butt, yes, but not as major as if it was the rack and pinion that's requiring service if that's where the leak were coming from. So inspect it really close. It could be as simple as a high pressure hose with a fitting that's bad that's pushing some fluid back up onto that area. So that's all things to check out.
Thanks for the call, Cole.
Hey, thank you guys so much.
You bet. Take care. Yeah, if you get an older car like that, I don't see any reason not to fix it, because people used to say, well, let's just junk it, but there's no reason to, because that's a lot of money there.
Yeah, if the body's solid and clean and not rusted out and dangerous in our part of the world, at least, finding the replacement in a similar cost factor is going to be tough.
We'll be right back on the Under the Hood Show.
Find us on radio, YouTube, Facebook, and podcast by searching Under the Hood Show. Just like Chicken Man, we're everywhere.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up. I don't know if I always do that at the half-hour break, but we'll just throw it in there.
That's up to you. Doug can edit it out if he'd like to.
The magic.
It's time to give away a hoodie.
Everybody,
We're not going to edit that out. We're going to keep that right in the show. Congratulations to Joe McCallish from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Thanks for listening. The hoodie giveaway is brought to you by Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu, and our friends over at Berkeley One Classics, your key to collector car insurance, now celebrating 50 years of collector car coverage. Can you imagine getting your car insured? You got a collector car 50 years ago. You're one of the first people doing that. That's quite some time ago.
Yeah, that is kind of amazing.
Back in the early 70s, they're like, hey, we can do this agreed valued coverage. That was a long time ago, but not so long. When I like to think of it as, it seems like just yesterday, but no, it was a while ago. So Universal Technical Institute. Think about your career. If you're a young person out there, I know we got a lot of them listening to the show that are, thinking, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a mechanic? Do I want to be a welder? Maybe I want to work on jet skis. Maybe I want to work on motorcycles. I'm a guy who's got a lot of motorcycles, and I drive them around, race them around, whatever I do, and thinking, this could be my thing. I'm fixing my friend's stuff. Well, further your career a little bit more and check out UTI.edu, Universal Technical Institute. They can help you with all those things. UTI.edu. We're going to jump right back into the phones, and we're going to talk to Travis. Travis has a 2018 Kia Sorento. Hey, Travis.
Morning, guys. Sorrento's got 100,000 on it. It's got a 4-cylinder in it, and it's got an issue where sometimes in the car wash and sometimes driving in heavy rain, it'll develop a misfire, but the misfire only lasts a couple of revolutions. Like, you really can't even ever feel the misfire barely. But then, of course, the thing goes into limp mode until you clear the code. The last time it did it in the car wash, it actually waited several minutes after being out of the car wash. It stopped at another store for a while and then was back on the road before it had its little hissy fit, did it again. So I've had the hood open and garden hose under the hood, sprayed everywhere, can't get it to do it with a garden hose, checked all the connectors on the coils and the boots on the coils, everything's dry inside there. Just wondering if you'd seen this on one of these and where I should be looking towards.
Sometimes. Have you sprayed from the bottom up, like the car wash?
Yes.
Yeah, you got to get a lot of water and a lot of pressure going on out there. But we have seen issues where you get the pressure will get under there, and even in the rain, you get enough just mist that piles up. It's just a constant barrage, like being in a shower for your engine. The crankshaft sensor will get wet. And when that gets wet, it gets wet enough that it can cause a change in the pattern. And when that pattern changes, it'll cause a misfire. And, the other thing you can get would be plug wires and things, the coil boots, they'll get wet. But if you sprayed on top of the engine and it didn't do anything, more than likely it's a crankshaft issue type problem. Crankshaft sensor
are all
issue.
your plastic turtle shells underneath in place? They seem to get ripped off everything nowadays.
Oh, the covers, you mean?
Turtle shells.
Like turtle shells.
No, the main one is gone.
Well, one of the first things you could do when I have a customer come into our shop and they tell me they have this problem, usually it's on a Prius or an Escape. Those are the two most common vehicles we have with missing turtle shells.
Did I just make a new name for you?
I guess, yeah.
Just think of a turtle. Look at their belly. They got that big, covering.
The undershell, the bottom shell.
Yeah, the bottom side.
Turn the turtle over and see. We tell them, put the covers on. Let's put the covers on and see what happens. So many of those, with the cover missing, The biggest problem we see is if you drive in the snow, if you're in an area with snow, the snow will get in there and get between the belt and the pulley, and it'll lift it right off, and you'll lose that belt going down the road. So or it'll freeze in there. That's not a good thing. So I would start with that. I would just get a cover on it, because you've already demonstrated you can spray water a significant amount on the top and it doesn't miss. When you go through that car washer in the rain and it's really blasting underneath, it gets it. I would start with a cover. But the crankshaft sensor and then the connector on it, you could start with the sensor and see if that fixes the problem completely. But if it does not, more than likely you're going to have to put the connector on as well. So that connector on there, like our local Sturdivant's Auto Parts, when we get a part from them, they carry both the sensor, and then on the same page, it's going to show the connector. The reason they're selling the connectors is because there's such a problem with them, and people will need them. It's not that the wiring really frays, but they will lose their insulating ability as far as moisture. They'll let moisture in, humidity, water, and they'll corrode and things. So we replace the connector with the sensor often.
Does that connector splice that they give you with the pigtail, is that a special splice required with a signal like that coming off the crankshaft?
No, it's usually we just crimp it on and use the heat shrink tubing that comes with it. But if you've ever got a sensor that has a twisted wire where you pull the cover off and you see it twisted all the way down like hair braids or something, you've got to retwist it. So you cut the wires, you crimp them, you put the heat shrink on, and then you twist it where it might be 1 per half inch or 1 per inch. The twist, get it the same as the rest. Otherwise, interference from things like the alternator and the starter wire and stuff will interfere with that signal and can cause a misfire. But it's likely that your whole problem is coming from the crankshaft sensor area. From the ones we've seen do this same problem.
It might be easier for you without having to splice wires or do anything to put to order and get the new cover and put underneath there and then drive through the car wash and see if the problem still persists.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can order those covers up. The dealership is one place, and if you want the cheap one that you'll have to replace more often, but it's way cheaper, Amazon carries that. It's not a place I'd like to go for a lot of stuff, but in the case of those covers, you might be looking at $30 for everything versus
300,
200. I know
sometimes.
Producer Doug there had a Prius, and I bought all the covers for his and Chris's car. And they were like $30 and then another $20 for every clip we needed and everything for everything, splash shields, fender liners, all of it. And then the dealer was several $100s. So we went that way once with Chris's car, and then he tore them off in a year. So we put the cheap ones on, and they've lasted over a year. So does that help you out a little, Travis?
It does. I appreciate your time.
All right. Take care. All right. We're going to jump right over, and we are going to talk to David. David's got a Class A motorhome out in California. How you doing, David?
Better than I deserve.
How are you, David?
I'm better than I deserve.
Better than you deserve. All right. I like to hear that. What's up with the motorhome?
It's a tire problem. The 2019 Class A motorhome on a Ford 450 Gas. The outside dual on the right side, after putting 6,000 miles on brand new tires, ball like a racing slick. The other tires are fine. Pressures are all the same. So I'm going to lost. I can't find anybody to explain why that tire is bald.
How long have you had this vehicle?
Since October last year.
Okay, so it's pretty new to you, and this is the first set of tires, or is this the second set that's done the same thing?
I've talked to the previous owner. When he traded it into the dealership, it had the original tires, 27,000 miles.
Okay.
The dealer put brand new tires on it when I bought it.
So when you're driving this, how many miles again did you put on it before it wore the tire out?
6,000.
6,000. And are you when you drove it, it's loaded with all your stuff, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes.
And are you carrying it with a full water tank as well?
Negative.
All right. So because these things are important. What we see on dual wheel trucks and on motorhomes especially, if you've got one tire only that's wearing out on a dual wheel truck, let's say your axle was crooked, it's dog-legged to one side or the other, it's going to wear both tires because both of them are out. If you have too much air pressure in one tire, it will wear that tire out, but I'm assuming you don't. But if you have an extra load on the vehicle just on one side, that extra weight on one side of the vehicle will lean it down. Let's say it's leaning towards the right because you've got extra weight. It'll put the pressure on the outside dual, less pressure on the inside, and even more so, it'll be less on the way out on the driver's side. So that would wear that tire out. I've seen that happen before with motorhomes where they have like the refrigerator and the stove or everything all on one side, and it wears that. And we've told people, well, try this. If you've got a water tank on the opposite side, put some water in it and see if it evens it out, or put more of your gear on that opposite side. I would start with that, because if they've checked everything and everything looks normal, I would put weight on the other side of the vehicle opposite of where this tire is wearing and see if that straightens it out. Because we run into a lot of people with fifth wheel campers and motorhomes in our business, and that's what their problem has been. A couple of them have said, oh yeah, I had way too much air pressure in it, but that's odd because most of the time you know what your pressure is, and to get one tire too much more than once would be an issue.
And it would typically wear the center of the tire out first.
Exactly, the high point of that tire. So I would definitely look at the load, what's going on back there. You might even, if you can somehow find it, like around here we have scales that are used for agriculture and stuff, and sometimes you can pull up on the scale with just one tire on the scale, weigh the left side of the camper, and then pull up with the other one on there and see what the other side weighs. And if you've got a 500-pound difference between side to side or 1,000 pounds, you definitely got something going on there that would cause that problem. But I mean, these are all guesses, but they're educated guesses from things we've seen before, if that helps you out a little bit.
Well, I've looked at all those possibilities.
Yeah.
And I can't see. I'm not carrying that much weight.
Sure.
I mean, my guess is if I have 100 to 200 pounds in the rear, that would be the maximum. The differential, probably not more than 50 pounds.
What side's the refrigerator on?
Right side.
It is on the right side where the tire wore out, and the stove and everything over there.
Yes.
Yeah, you might want to look into that, because I know in my camper, the stove and everything's on the left side, but that equipment weighs about 800 pounds, and there's nothing on the other side other than a sofa and a table. So it's made to carry the water on the right side and a lot of the gear. So I try to balance it out, but mine is definitely way heavier on the one side. I could just measure from the frame to the ground, and it's lower on the one side when it's empty. So
the part that you said about the original owner said he went 27,000 miles with the original tires is a little puzzling to me too.
Yeah.
That new tires would just do this. Is there anything going on with the suspension that you can see that maybe it's leaning the weight more one direction than the other? Is there anything odd that when you sit there and look at it on flat ground?
No, there's nothing like that. And that's why I think the original owner says 27,000 miles. I buy it. It's got all the equipment the same, refrigerator same place.
Yep.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something leaning to that side. Maybe he carried all his weight on the other side. And I know if you call back the owner, he's going to be like, oh, come on, man, I sold it. It was fine. But, it might be a thing where, if you called him up and said, hey, I've been told that maybe if I put more stuff on the opposite side, what does it do? Where did you carry all your stuff? And he says, oh, well, we had all sorts of stuff piled on the other side opposite of the refrigerator every time we hauled it, because I know where we haul our stuff, and somebody else may not do that. So might be a thought. So
yeah, and check your suspension. Make sure there's no spring problems. It might have some air suspension on it, but you'd notice that. If you had a big lean, you'd notice that. Yep. So that's an interesting one.
All right. Thanks for the call, David.
Yeah. Well, can I ask another question?
Oh, yeah, real quick here.
I got a 59 El Camino.
Yep.
And it has an overheating problem.
Yes.
I've got a big radiator. It's got a big aluminum radiator. I
Mhm.
changed the thermostat, and the problem remains the same. Running with air conditioning around town, it still runs beautifully about 200. The minute I get on the freeway, up to 70 miles an hour with air, it becomes overheating. It's up to 225, 230.
Going down the
On the
interstate.
freeway.
Yeah, if it does it on the freeway, there are two things that can cause that: either a radiator that's restricted, even if it's got a big aluminum one in it, or a fan problem. You've got a fan that's restricting the airflow. Like if you've got a solid fan that's not a clutch fan or a flex fan, that can actually restrict the airflow.
Electric.
It's electric.
Yep,
You got an airflow problem then, and it may be that you've got the big radiator in there, but you're not getting enough through the grill to direct the air. You may need an air dam under the front bumper area that will direct the air from that lower bumper up through the radiator. We see that a lot on classic cars. When we were building them in the shop, we had a couple of them, the old Chevys and things. They wouldn't get enough air through the grill at highway speeds, so we just put that little 4-inch plastic air dam across the bottom, and the air would hit that and be directed up and go through the grill or through the radiator. So that's probably what you're going to need is something to direct a little more air. And 4 inches of air scoop on the bottom is a lot. It'll just push it straight up like a wall and run through. I would try that first because that's a cheap thing you can do, any kind of piece of plastic. So hope that helps out.
No, I don't think so, but
Give it a shot. We didn't think so either, but we tried it and it worked. So, all right.
the finished car, and I don't want to put anything ugly on it.
Yeah, no, you put something temporary, and then if it works, then find something permanent.
Then you got to engineer after that. We got to take a break here. Thanks a lot, David.
Take care.
I will. God bless.
You too. All right, we're going to take a short break here. We will be right back on the End of the Hood Show with more of your calls. 866-594-4150. The End of the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
Want to know what these guys are really about? Take a look under the hood.
Under the Hood, that's us. 866-594-4150. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom, and we're going to jump right back into your calls, and we're going to talk to Jim in Tennessee with a 2000 Chevy S10. How you doing, Jim?
Doing great, thank you. How are y'all?
Thanks for calling us. We appreciate it. We're doing very well, like a gentleman said earlier, better than we deserve. What's up with your 2000 S10?
Well, I bought this Chevy S10. It's a old truck, of course, and I got it. And when it was delivered to me, the guy parked it out there, and it's stuck in gear. And so I thought, well, how do I get it out of gear? I don't know how to get it out of gear. So I thought, well, the clutch has no return on it.
Yeah.
So I thought, somebody said, well, it needs to be bled. The bled. And I said, what do you mean bleeding? The only time I ever worked on the clutch, I didn't know anything about bleeding it. But anyway, I tried to bleed it out of the top, and I got some air bubbles out of the top.
Okay.
Right. It still didn't have any clutch. Then I had a friend come by, and he says, well, you probably need to bleed the down below. I did. Some dirty, nasty fluid ran out. A little bit. I'd say maybe a fourth of a cup. And that was it. I still have no clutch pedal. So,
well, what that is moisture that has got into the system. At some point, somebody may have left the cap off for an extended period. It absorbs humidity because that brake fluid in there is hygroscopic, meaning it sucks up water. It pulls it right in. So if you've got a cap off brake fluid sitting on the shelf, you got to throw it away. Recycle it properly. But the same thing happens with your clutch or your brakes on your car, the regular master cylinder. It will pull water in. So at this point, you've got a problem with, I'm sure the pistons are rusted inside. They do sell a kit. You're going to get both the master cylinder and the slave cylinder and the line that connects it all as one, and you've got to replace it all together. But the good news for you is, well, the only good news, you got to pull the transmission out to put it in.
Yeah, that's never good news. It's more work than
and then you're going to check your throwout bearing slide area on the nose, the snout of the transmission, and make sure it's clean, emery cloth if you need to, polish it up, steel wool. and lubricate it properly. But then you're going to get this slave cylinder, which is part of the throwout bearing in there, and the master cylinder. It's pre-bled. That's the good news for you. You just bolt it in, you're good to go. Pulling the transmission out of that S10 is pretty easy.
Oh, okay.
Is it a two-wheel drive?
All right. Yes, it is.
Oh, it's super easy then. In our shop, I can pull the transmission out of a two-wheel drive S10 in about 30 minutes. So for you on the ground with ramps and jack stands and proper equipment like that, for me, if I was crawling under it, I would think, a couple hours to get it out of there. And then you can go through that work. That way, you got a vehicle that's still worth some money, but you don't want to spend a ton on getting it back on the road, but it would definitely be worth fixing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And then, of course, if any of the clutch parts are bad, just to change those at
Replace
the same
them
time.
while it's apart.
Just buy the kit.
You could probably get this, whole thing going for, a few $100 if you price the pieces right and get you back on the road again.
You should still be able to rock that. You should still be able to rock that back and forth though, and get it out of gear.
Oh yeah, yeah. When it stops.
If it's not running, it's still stuck in gear.
Believe it or not, I did start it in second gear and took off.
Yeah, okay.
Just to see how the clutch did, and the clutch seemed to be working fine.
Yeah, and then and you're able to, just shift.
not the clutch, the
transmission.
Yeah,
transmission.
You're able to shift with momentum just by letting off the gas. Then.
Well, I got up to about 30, and I shifted into third, and then drove it for a while.
I just want to make sure the transmission doesn't have something else going wrong inside.
Because if it's stuck in second gear, you're looking at a synchro broken or something.
Good. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. Make sure when it's out, you put it in every gear and make sure it shifts properly. Otherwise, you'll have to have a transmission shop take a peek. But all right.
Yeah, it's out of gear now. Yeah, it's out of gear now. Now I can shift it into all the gears. So.
Thanks for the call, Jim.
Well, thank you so much.
You bet. Hope that helped.
Appreciate that.
All right. Take care.
Hope so too. Bye.
These older vehicles like that, it's great if you can keep it on the road and save yourself some money. Like I said, not everybody's going to pull a transmission out on their own, but some people might. Jim might do it.
Well, that's an aluminum transmission. It doesn't weigh a lot.
No, it's
you get the shifter boot off, get the drive shaft off. You got the bell housing bolts out around the outside, and disconnect the master cylinder. You can kind of let that get out of the way because sometimes those hoses can be a bit of a pain in the butt to get around. But that's not a bad job.
You pull it all out as one unit. You put it all back in as one unit with the line and everything. Like I said, you get the hose and the whole thing from the parts store complete. And then you don't have to worry about bleeding it out because it's all one unit. And
starting to see people restore some of these S10 pickups. They're becoming Berkeley classics. Yeah,
they are. It's they're like the square body Chevys. They've regained popularity, and all the old small ones, the Toyotas, Nissans, things like that. My grandson's got a Nissan. They like those things. They're fun trucks. This is another episode of the Under the Hood Show in the can. We got another one coming up. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. 866-594-4150. We'll get you lined up for the next episode. Take care.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans, along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Thanks for joining us. 866-594-4150. 4150-866-594-4150. And you can join us under the hood, and we'll try to get you fixed up. Get your car fixed. It's free, or double your free back. Everybody needs a little free car advice now and then because it's hard to find out there. We've got callers lined up on the phone already. We are going to jump right in, and we're going to talk to Steve with a 02 Trans Am. Trans Am gets the first spot, of course. How you doing, Steve? How you doing, Steve?
Good, guys. Shannon, this is your old. Am I on yet?
Yeah, you're ready to go.
Oh, okay. Shannon, this is your old neighbor, Steve. I got a couple Pontiacs, and we hang out a little bit. But anyhow, I had to tell you about an experience I had. I got a 2002 Trans Am, and I lost my dash. And so guy said, well, your fuse blew out. I put a new fuse in, doesn't work. And so I send my dash in, $400 later, get it back. The guy said, it's not your dash, it's something else. Took the radio out, and it wasn't the radio. And then I took it to a mechanic, and $400 later there, he said it was the anti-theft device. So when he pulled that out, there's 7 things that run.
Uh-oh.
7 things that run through was the last we heard. Try that. Try going from there, Steve.
Okay. Well, I have no dash. All my gauges went out. We put a new fuse in. It blows it right away. Took the radio out, and that didn't do it. I took it to a mechanic, and he said 7 things run off that one fuse. And he got to the 6th one, and it was an anti-theft device.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled that out, put a new fuse in, and it works great. And I just wanted your readers or our listeners to know that. And then also, I've got a 37 Pontiac with a LT motor in it.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to use a little touch of ether to get it started. They said it was a fuel modem in there. Can you tell me about that? Why it's not getting fuel up to get it started?
Well, when you say you got an LT motor, you got an old LT1 like a Roadmaster engine in there?
Probably like
90s?
I don't really.
It's a 90s engine, right?
I bet you it is. I bet you Steve's probably got a Camaro or a Trans Am or Corvette motor or something in there, an LT series.
Yeah, but with a cold start injector in it, probably that old design. Yeah, it might have a problem with either it's not priming when you turn the key on, so you can hear. When you turn the key on, you should hear power to the fuel pump. You should hear it run bzzz in the back for just a few seconds. If you do not, then you need to look into the fuel pump relay and how that is wired up. Make sure it's getting prime. If you do hear that, it may have an injection issue, or it could even be as simple as the computer does not see the proper temperature of the engine. It may think that it's 120 degrees out, or of coolant temperature, when it's really only 70 degrees. So it's not getting proper electronic choke. It will give it more fuel based on the temperature, the outside air temp, and the internal temperature of the coolant. So you want to make sure that that's right. The first thing I do is plug a scanner into it and see what that temperature says after it sat overnight. If it was a night where it was in the 60s, and you look at that and see that the coolant temp says 90 or 100 or more, definitely put a coolant temp sensor in there first and see what it does.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, you got Steve. It's kind of odd that you had 2 Pontiac questions. I just can't believe that.
Oh, I got a lot more, but you don't have the time.
So. Are you doing? I think Reserve had told me that you're having your car show, or did I miss that? I always seem to miss that. Your open house
it was last night.
Yeah.
Yep. We had about 96 cars there. So.
Well, that's a Berkeley One classic. But
we had a pork sandwich.
Yep. Steve,
have you seen the Pontiac, Shannon?
Well, Steve's got a really neat shop up by Dell's.
Yeah.
And it's all Pontiac stuff. And I have not been in there yet, which is kind of crazy.
So you haven't seen his Pontiac?
No.
Oh, good. Then we can guess the color of it.
We're going to guess the 37.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a Berkeley One Classic. I think it's blue.
I think his 37 Pontiac is going to be maroon.
Maroon?
Yes.
What color is it?
Blue.
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 All right.
All right. Well, I think we should get Steve a hoodie.
We're going to get him a hoodie. We guessed the color of his car. Even though we didn't lose on this one, we're going to get him a hoodie. So producer Doug's going to keep you on the line and get you a hoodie and give him your size. And they're all black. We can't get you a blue one anymore. But
Okay. No problem. I appreciate it.
all right.
Appreciate the advice, too.
All right. Good luck. Thanks for the call. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You bet. Bye.
Well, that's a Pontiac family that drives Pontiacs together, stays together, right? Isn't
There we
that how it
go.
goes?
Yep. No, Steve's got a nice place up there by Dell's. I don't know. He doesn't always open it up, but he's got quite a collection himself.
There's a lot of people who have the man caves or the woman cave, whatever, and you've got lots of stuff in there. It's amazing. They had a couple garage tours in our area, which is in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota, basically area. They used to do that. It coincided around kind of like the Winterfest of Wheels, and then you had the garage tours. I think it was late spring, early summer, and it was amazing how many people had at least 20 cars in their garage that they were, a big barn or shed type thing with cars, and they were air conditioned, heated, had a bar, a little restaurant, whatever going on in there. It was really fun and cool to go around and see what people had in their collections. And some of them were just newer sports cars. Maybe they've got a Raptor and a new Bronco or whatever now I suppose they would have, or a Corvette and a lot of other newer stuff. And then there were people that had a lot of very old 20s, 30s, 40s classics. And then there's ones that had everything in there, but to see just the passions and what people have and the stories behind
the
cars.
Stories are the biggest thing for people. They love sitting around and talking about the story of the car, where it came from, what it took to get it to the condition it's in. There's always a great story, just like your truck. The story on your truck is as cool as the truck itself.
There's a lot of people that when I go to a show, it's nice to just to listen. It's not so much as me as the other people say, "Hey,
go.
what's up with your? My grandpa had." Well,
they've got a story that clicks because of what they see,
and because I have to tell my story about it so often, I would rather hear you tell me about
that's true.
What is going on with yours, because nobody wants to do the same thing over and over and over again. But
if you zoned in on this Pontiac thing and you talk about a collection, I want to get mine to be one less. So I've got one this weekend. I haven't even told my wife this yet. I think I've decided officially that I'm going to sell a 1981 Trans Am that you and I were going to put an engine in at one time. It's a project. It's been rotisserie turned, and somebody could make a nice car out of it. They need to put the time into it.
And I thought about buying that car, and then I realized no more projects. I said no more projects. We're headed down to Barrett-Jackson in October. You can join us there if you want from the 10th, 11th, and the 12th they're doing another big auction down there like they do
this is the
in
first
February.
fall auction for Barrett-Jackson.
And it'll be big, so you can come see us at the auction and see all the stuff going on down there, and maybe I'll buy a car. Or probably not, but you never know.
Talk about it.
The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's, 866-594-4150. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Guaranteed car repair advice or double your free back. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. This is Under the Hood. We're going to jump right back into the phones. We got them lined up again, thanks to producer Doug in there from Prairie House Productions. Appreciate it, Doug. We're going to talk to Christoph with a 15 Buick Enclave. What's up with that car, Christoph?
Hey, Russ. Hey, team. I just retired the Mr. Catmobile this summer.
Ah.
So, I do have a question about that Chevy HHR, maybe if we get to it too. But
okay.
I've been driving the 2015 Buick Enclave, all-wheel drive, and it's a journey of discovery for me. It's a brand new spaceship. The TPMS, the pressure monitor in the right front tire, looked low about a week ago. And then I got dashes on it and a warning about check the system. and I discovered a air station at a new convenience store on the north end of town here in Sioux Falls that actually reads the tire pressure and beeps at you and tells you when it's at the level that you set.
Okay.
So I'm about to fill up again and just make sure that that right front tire isn't actually low. The one being out, but not all four, and this being about 95,500 miles on it now, we're thinking that maybe just replace all four sensors, all four tires, because if it's a battery that went out, maybe all of them will start to go out like light bulbs.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Is it time for tires on the vehicle?
Tires are in great shape. They still got the whiskers on them, that wear off if you run against the curb at all.
That's because it's Mr. Cat's car. That's why.
Well, I bought this one in nice shape too. But yeah, the old HHR is pretty rusty.
I would say that, yeah, if one's going bad, you replace all four. I was hoping you were going to tell me it needs tires anyways, because that's the best time to do them. Is when the tires
if it was mine and I knew one wasn't working, and I wanded it and checked it, and the tires didn't have to come off,
and you would wait to do the rest.
I would, because it's
expensive.
$20 a tire.
No, more than that.
$30 a tire, depending on where you're at.
More than that.
To mount and dismount.
Yeah, they're gonna have to pull it off. So he said, one now, but definitely do the rest when the tires come off, because they will go bad. And then, but if 2 months from now you have to put the second one on, and you might as well just do them, because if you've got 3 years left on your tires, then the other two are definitely going. If you've lost two already, it's going. So I would say do that, but start with one. You'll save yourself some money. Maybe get into it for $100 instead of, as you can imagine, $400.
But there's great tools now, though, that the technicians have, that they can check those sensors to see if they're putting off a signal or not. Before you just go buy one, they can wand it and just see if there's a signal coming from it. They can check it.
You can even buy your own. I know that our local Sturdivant's Auto Parts sells a tire pressure monitor tool, and you can go in there and buy one, and you can scan your tires or your friend's tires or whatever you want. They're pretty cheap.
Like, define cheap.
I want to say under $100.
Really?
Yeah, and they don't work for everyone. You've got to get for the cheaper ones, they're more vehicle specific, like model specific and year and frequency. But the more expensive ones, you get into one that's $200 to $300. It's going to do like all cars, which is great, because you can use them on your car, your friend's car. Your friend says, "Hey, can you do that?" Sure, $20 or whatever, and reprogram them when they rotate their tires. If they're doing it every time they rotate, it's like, I'll do it for $10.
We know who's buying drinks that weekend.
Yeah, or they can buy the drinks, whatever it takes. Does that help you out a little bit?
Yeah, that helps with a quick question. I've got a kit of 4 of those on the way, just because I found a deal for them that matches the system. So we'll go with whatever the dealer's recommendation is, but I figured it was better to just get them while I could.
And if they're stored in the house, and then they will last a long time. As long as you don't move them, they stay off. They don't turn on. They get a little magnet that moves in there, and it activates them. So if they're sitting on a shelf and it's stored at like room temperature, they'll probably last for 10, 15 years before they start losing a battery.
So don't put them in the trunk.
Do not. They will be on every time you move the car, just like the one that's on there, so they'll have the same kind of life. But like an Energizer battery that says good to 2034 or whatever on the shelf, those batteries will last the same on the shelf.
So as long as the dealership said, hey, just make sure you check the tire pressure as you're driving out to Rapid City and back, we dropped off the HHR with the student going off to college. So that's second life for that 18-year-old Chevy HHR. But the Chevy actually has got an ABS and a traction control light that came on, and it's had both front wheel bearings done. And I'm wondering if it isn't a speed sensor tied to one of those front wheel bearings.
Probably one of those.
Light, it comes on and then it goes off. But
could be a rear hub, or it could be one of the front sensors that's going out where the wire goes up. The wire could be broken. They're part of that hub, so could be a broken wire up there. But it's probably pretty simple. They scan it and tell you which wheel it is. They're probably going to come back. It's probably going to say something like the right rear. That's probably going to be the hub in the rear, or the little wire that connects back there. That harness will break. You'll be able to just take a peek under the car. If you see one of the wires hanging out on one of the right or left rear, right at the center of the hub, then it's going to need a connector on the end, and that'll fix it. You can do that yourself in the driveway. Put a connector on it, plug it back in.
On some vehicles, if the TPMS warning light is on, Christoph, it will disable other systems because it doesn't know whether or not it's safe. And so that's the main reason why you got to get that fixed. Otherwise, geez, we drove for years.
Right on the Buick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, we drove for years without TPMS sensors. You just looked at the tire to see if it was low or not.
Yeah. That's
Oh yeah, the Chevy I'm used to having a low tire all the time because it's got those low profile tires and big hubs on it. So.
And aluminum wheels that leak.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, they pop a bead all the time. So I'll just keep an eye on it on the way back from Rapid then and make sure that those lights don't stay on if they came on for my son when he was driving back out to Rapid in August. So.
All right.
But yeah, I'll keep an eye on the TPMS on the Buick and get that fixed up. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the call. Take care. All right, we're going to jump right back in, get another call in here. We're going to talk to Brad with a 2008 BMW. Thanks for calling, Brad.
Hey, thanks. How y'all doing?
Very good. What's up with that BMW?
Hey, I've gotten fighting a rough idle here for a couple months. Started out as no check engine light or anything, and I was scanning it to try to find out what was wrong with it, and I realized it didn't have any. My coolant pump didn't have any RPM, so I took it apart and found out that I had a piece of the little plastic float in the coolant reservoir had broke off and stuck in the impeller. And so I replaced that with an aftermarket pump and thermostat, and that didn't do anything. And I've replaced quite a few different things on it. I checked my compression on it, and it seemed high to me. It was 220 on 5 of the cylinders, and one of them was 215.
That's fine.
And okay,
it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it shouldn't.
Variable valve timing,
Yeah,
so it's supposed to be. It'll be higher.
Okay. Alrighty. And I put coil packs on it, spark plugs, mass airflow sensor, tried a new throttle body, and did all the relearns. Cleaned the old throttle body, tried that, the air filter, relearned Valvetronic several times, cleaned both solenoids and the screens, and took out the injectors. Those are all clean and fine. I put new O-rings in those too. So I'm kind of at a loss of what else to try here. I did replace the valve cover and the eccentric shaft sensor about 3 years ago on that, and I did notice that there is some oil coming out down into the valley there a little bit on that. So I don't know if that could be it too or not.
Yeah, I probably not. If you've got a misfire like that, definitely put a scanner on it, read it. I would take a close look at your oxygen sensor readings. Look at the front and look at the rear. It's got an air ratio sensor in the front, but compare them and see what they're looking at. If that sensor's failed on the front and it's way different than the rear, it can cause it to misfire because it'll think it's getting plenty of fuel, but it's taken away. Let's say that front sensor thinks it's super rich, but it's not. It'll take fuel away and it'll run it lean. It'll cause the engine to run lean and misfire, and you'll be able to read that in the back sensor. So as many as those as we've seen lately starting to fail on cars, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fuel quality lately, I would definitely take a look at that because that'll cause some misfire. Other than that, your injectors can cause some issues on that car. We have seen a few bad injectors on those. Not a lot. You could swap cylinders on them and see if that follows if the miss follows. But yeah, that's where we would start looking on that car. That help you out a little bit?
Okay, and it does. One more question too on that coolant pump. I did take it to BMW, and all they gave me was the same codes that I'm pulling myself.
Right.
But they said that because I put an aftermarket water pump on it, that it may not be communicating
right
with the alternator in the back. And I do have a code for coolant pump missing still, but on my scanner it shows all the RPMs are fine, and it does the bleed procedure too.
Okay.
I didn't know if something like that could cause a misfire also or not.
No, it shouldn't cause a misfire. Just codes or overheating if the pump wasn't working, but it won't cause a misfire.
Are you getting just a rough idle, or is it a misfire while driving too?
No, it runs perfectly down the interstate. Any other time, when you pull up to a stoplight or stop idling, then it'll run fine, and it'll just drop out, or it'll just run really rough. And it'll catch. And
that could be in the O2 sensors then if it's just at idle.
Okay. Alrighty.
All right.
That helps me out. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Thanks for the call. Yeah, you can get all sorts of weird stuff going on. If you've got a fuel control, if you got a misfire, we look at the ignition, the hard parts. That would be the hardware, the misfire, and then we look at the software basically to see if something is gone awry there. Like you've got a fueling issue. If it shows that you've got fuel on the left but no fuel on the right, and it's running lean, you can smell the exhaust like rotten eggs. You know something is going on there. So 866-594-4150. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's, and we'll be right back with your calls.
Guaranteed car repair advice or double your free back. This is Under the Hood.
Welcome back to Under the Hood. 866-594-4150. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. And of course, what would we be without our listeners? We're going to go to Santos in Texas with a 2002 Lexus. How you doing, Santos?
How you doing, sir? Hey, I am a big fan of all of y'all. I used to listen to y'all every day on the podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah, y'all good, man. Y'all good. Y'all always hit it right on the nail. Okay. My Lexus, it's a good car. It's a wonderful car. It started off running good. Somehow, the module, the BSC lights came on.
Yep.
I busted the wires in the back because I had a flat tire and the rim broke in half. I spun sideways, being crazy on it. But I fixed that, and I fixed the wires. I take the wires back on. The light was on, so I put them little wires under the connector under the dashboard, and the lights turned off. But after a while, the lights turned back on, and they're still on now. But somehow the motor is losing power. It turns on, it cranks on, it's real still, but all of a sudden, sometimes it's like when I give it gas, it goes like the muffler is something like it's stuck with something. I don't know what it is, and I lost power. When I accelerate, it ducks down and then it starts picking up speed real fast. Could you help me, please? Explain to me more or less what could be the problem?
Yeah, you could have a couple things going on.
What model
there.
Lexus is this?
It's an 02 SC430 convertible.
Okay, fun little car.
Yeah, you know, a couple things could be doing this. You could either have a fuel loss, so when or both, fuel or ignition, or both of them, where you're stepping on the throttle, you're not getting enough fuel, so it falls on its face, and then it picks up again. If you step on it and it falls down, but then you let up just a little bit and it feels like it's picking up, that's usually a feeling of what happens when fuel happens. So you might have a fuel pump that's getting weak. I don't believe that car still has a fuel filter on it. It might. I can't remember. We haven't changed one on a Lexus in so long. I can't remember if it does or not. But do you know if it does?
The guy that I bought this car from had a problem with this car, and he didn't have no money. He didn't have no money at all to fix the car. So what he did, he went to the junkyard and he asked the guys from the junkyard, hey, because he broke the fuel pump assembly.
Yep.
And he didn't have no money to buy one. So he went to the junkyard, to the wrecking yard, and he got one off of another car. I'm not sure what kind of car it was, but he put that assembly with the fuel pump on this Lexus right here, but the gas gauge doesn't work because the assembly doesn't belong to that car. It's a different assembly, I guess, a different fuel pump. I have never checked it out, but the gas gauge doesn't work. So that could be the problem.
Yeah, so I've definitely, if you're saying the gas gauge doesn't work and you think that he put in a fuel pump, recycling yard type fuel pump.
Maybe he got it out of a different model that would still plug in to give it the power, but maybe didn't have the right harness.
You could put one out of a Ford F-150 in there and it would run the car. As long as you could get it mounted in the tank somehow and sealed up and hooked to the lines, it should work. But the return for the fuel, what your pressure is, all that will cause a huge issue with the way the engine runs. I would say, if you got a car like this, that's a pretty desirable car yet. It's pretty nice. I would find the correct fuel pump assembly, install it first before you do anything else, and see if that fixes your problem, Santos, because, I'm leaning towards fuel already, and you're telling me you got the wrong fuel pump in this car. Somebody else did it. I would say, let's get that addressed first and see. And then, with the chugging like that, you might have some ignition problem going on. Like you need some, the coil boots and plug wires, when those go bad on cars, they will cause a shake when you get them under a little load going uphill. So you might have something going on there, but I would definitely address this fuel thing because you want to know how much fuel's in that car too. And you can go by the miles and tell, but if somebody siphons your gas, you never know.
Owning a recycling yard ourselves, we do occasionally sell a fuel pump assembly, the module assembly, because they get so expensive in some vehicles. People will come to us to buy one when they're broken down and they can't get one.
And they hardly ever go bad on these cars.
Right, but there is an actual interchange, so you could get the right one. But that is going to be a unique fuel pump, I would guess. That's either going to be for the Lexus LS 430 or the SC 430. I'm going to guess they have a unique pump, I would think.
I think they are different because of the drive shaft back there. I think they're different than the LS.
Yeah. So it very, very unique car.
See what a new one costs, and you got to look for the whole assembly. And when you have a heart attack because you see that, when you're out of the hospital and you get back, look up a used one like car-part.com and see what they've got available. And I would not be afraid of a used one. Car-part.com. I wouldn't be afraid of them because, like we said, they almost never fail on those cars. They last. They're one of the rarest we ever put a fuel pump in because they last so long. So you should be fine to put a used one in it.
Okay. That would be good. And that is like, thank you. I mean, I've never, I don't like to say it on the air, but I was incarcerated for a long time, and I always listen to y'all. I've always listened to y'all, man. I learned a lot from y'all.
Oh, that's great.
And I got out. Awesome. I got out and I bought these Lexus, and I've been having problems. I said, you know what? I'm gonna call these guys. I know they're gonna tell me because y'all good. Y'all good. Y'all real good. Well, I was gonna ask you one more question. I bought some insurance. They say that I can only get liability, but I said, no, I know I can get full coverage insurance because liability is not going to do me any good.
Sure.
If something happens to the car, I'm stuck, and it costs a lot of money for those Lexus.
Yeah.
Can I get full coverage?
You've got to check with your agent. So I actually have a family member who is in charge of insurance in Texas at a company. They do a lot of underwriting stuff, and it will. I've talked about different laws and things, and it will vary. It just depends on the company. It's all done by risk. They decide what their risk assessment is of a vehicle, and whether or not when they look at the whole group through the whole state, and they say, "Yeah, our payout versus what these cars are actually worth is way more than we should be paying out." They may choose not to give full coverage on that, but another company might insure it. So you've just got to check around, check the different online suppliers for those. You're more than likely going to get insurance from like an online company with a click and quote type thing than you would if you call your local agent for insurance on that, because they've got a little more broad spectrum, but they also might be worse than a local agent. You're just going to have to do some phone calling and internet searching to find out who will give it. But if you've got pictures of the car, mileage, and they can see that it's a good car, somebody out there's going to be willing to insure it.
And Santos, as you build your life back up, getting out of incarceration, I'm real proud of you. They will, insurance companies do search the person too, so that can come into play. They look at credit ratings. They look at all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't imagine to decide what that risk is that they're taking. And so you want to be able to understand what might be coming at you, but it's just a matter of asking the questions in the internet or just going into a couple local agents if they're around and just sitting down with them and having the conversation and, and getting a good start, because the liability, the liability you have to have, that's required. And that, because you don't want to hit somebody else and not be able to pay for their injuries or their vehicle damage, whatever it might happen to be. And you got to make sure you got a big enough limit to cover what's driving on the road out there today. I tell our kids in driver's ed all the time, if you're down in Texas and you run into a rancher's brand new Super Duty King Cab Platinum Edition Power Stroke diesel, you're talking about $110,000, $20,000 truck.
Yeah. It can exceed the minimum limits, especially down there.
So you got to make sure your liability limits are enough to cover something that you might run into.
Yeah.
So that'd be step one. And then you start asking about comprehensive to be covered if a tornado hits it or if a storm comes through. Then you start asking about collision, which would be if you wreck it. And so then you can kind of step up each one of those choices and figure out what your idea of full coverage needs to be. Because if the premiums are going to cost you $2,000, $3,000 in a year, and you bought the car for $4,000, you got to do some math and decide whether it's worth it or not. You might be better off putting that money in a savings account and self-insuring yourself if it would get injured. So then you'd have money sitting there to buy another vehicle.
Yes, sir. Okay, guys. So that is one for information. Thank you for your help. Thank you for your help.
You bet.
Sure, I'm going to look into that. Did y'all hear about the no more inspections or the sticker on the car?
No, we
think,
did.
Next year, January the 1st, we're not going to have no more inspection stickers.
Oh, that'll be a first.
Was
I'll have to check into
was
that.
on the news.
Because I'll check that real quick because that's that'd be huge for Texas because they've had them forever and it was a source of a lot of pain for a lot of people for a lot of things that had good running cars.
Okay.
Take care. We'll talk to you again.
Hey, you too, sir. Thank you very much, both of y'all. Thank you. Y'all good people. Thank you. I love y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Santos.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. 866-594-4150, and you can get under the hood too. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
If car repair was cheap, you wouldn't need us. We're Under the Hood.
That's right, Shannon. If car repair was cheap, you would not need us.
Some people still would because they just don't want to do it.
That's true. Which, that's something I've thought about. Do you fix your own car? Or do you have somebody else do it? Or if you're capable of fixing your own car, do you choose to have somebody fix your car? I wonder that. We have a lot of listeners that write in, they're members of the Hoodie fan club, and they don't fix their own car. They pay somebody to do it, although they know how to fix it. They've watched the videos, they can do it. But that's always a good question. With our customers that come to our shop, a large number of them say, I could do it. I used to be a mechanic, or I am a mechanic. I just don't have the time. Or a lot of them are body men or mechanics of heavy trucks or equipment. So I know they're capable of doing their own brakes. They're like, no, I work all day doing this. I'm not going to come home.
What time's available? What schedule you have? What other projects do you have to get taken care of?
So do you do your own car repair?
I put a battery in a car last night.
There you go.
No, that wasn't too major though.
So, there's a question for you. You'd probably rather go swimming than fix your own car.
I've had you guys fix a lot of stuff that I'm sure I could have figured out if I put the time into it.
Oh, we know.
But now I'll put the question back on you. You've learned how to do construction with a crazy project.
Everything. I've been doing it for years, but I've done.
But you really learned some new skills on this one.
Very complicated construction things that I wanted to throw in.
Would you do it again?
No.
Yeah, you'd hire somebody to do it.
Or I just wouldn't do it.
That's it.
There's
always that.
The standard stuff, the complication level that I decided to involve on something is just, it doesn't need to be that way. But I thought,
But it was just that's still of a point though. There's certain things that you learn how to do that you just might not do again if you had to do it.
Right. After 2 years of doing it on yourself, a crew of 20 people should have done it in a week and a half to 2 weeks.
I'm laughing in sadness, but especially the foundation. Holy smokes!
Yeah, it should have been a crew of, several crews of different people doing it over a much shorter period, but one person doing it. Now, my wife is right. When you sit back and you look at it, and I sit there and look as I'm, about 3/4 of the way done, I am thinking, what was I thinking? And there's a lot of stuff here, a lot of screws and a lot of angles and a lot of different things that are just. But it's coming together, I finally got off the roof for the last time last night.
Are you done on the roof?
I took all my safety ropes off of the roof last night, so that part is done. But I did leave safety hooks that are permanently mounted into the roof so that if anybody ever has to get up on the top of that monstrosity 30 feet off the ground, they can
strap on.
Put the ladder up there, clip the hook, and then they're
That's
safe.
good.
So they're making permanent hooks now for roofs. So we're going to jump into the phones, and we're going to talk to Chris in Minnesota, who has a question about brake rotors. Hi, Chris.
Hoodie. Say, Shannon, I got a transmission from you guys here a while back for a Subaru, and it works great. So just thinking, oh, by the way, I put a Hoodie request in, and I am still a growing man, so I'd like an extra large if I could.
Where'd this request get put in at?
The Hoodie Fan Club?
To Nordstrom's.
Okay.
All right.
Paid my bill for my transmission.
Oh, Chris, this is Chris. You've been giving our office staff there a hard time about a Hoodie for quite a while, Chris, and
well, of course.
Yeah, and Alyssa brought me the note, and so that's when I reached back out to you. So are you saying that what you told me you need to modify?
I'm growing. I'm a growing boy. Yes, I still am growing. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but I think it's too much intake. Maybe
you need to reply to that email and get.
It's under the hood. You need less intake, more exhaust.
You need to reply to that email and make a change for me because I'm waiting on stock right now to get in.
Change the camshaft.
We're out right now. So
I did try and reply on it, but it automatically kicked me out.
Yeah,
interesting. I got your note sitting there yet. I can get a hold of you, Chris.
Hey. Oh, and by the way, yeah, that transmission worked out good in that Subaru, by the way. Also, I got a question about brake rotors.
Sure.
I was at another shop, of course. I always stop there before lunch. And he's got a turning lathe, and he turned some rotors on a front of a car, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was, don't matter. And he never mic'd them.
Okay.
What happens to rotors if they're too thin?
Well,
Do they just, other than warping, I know they're warped, but will they fall apart?
They'll warp. They won't usually come apart. I've never seen one come apart, but they will. The thinner they are, the faster they will warp, of course. And also, you can have a lower pedal. You can have the distance that piston has to move out in order to push on the brake pads will make you so your pedal goes down. The fluid moves from the master cylinder into those cylinders, the calipers, and pushes the piston out. Well, the further they go, the further down the pedal goes. So if you were to push the pistons all the way in and put blocks in there, your pedal would be right up there at the top. It'd be tight. So the further they wear, the lower the pedal is, and that can affect the other end of the car, the opposite, the rear of the car. So you want to make sure you have the minimum specs met on your rotors, your brake drums, all four rotors if you have four rotors and such like that. You want to make sure that they all never go below the minimum spec. And most of the days now, you can go to auto parts store and you will find that brake rotors are getting to be so inexpensive on most cars that they're throwaway. You scrap them.
Most shops'
them.
turning lathes are not used very much.
Right. So you're just going to.
I think it's been 10 years since I've turned a rotor.
Yep, I've got one for sale. It's been sitting in the corner for a decade without being used. It still works. We don't use it because we just replace them. It costs more money to have a tech turn those rotors, and then you got the environmental, the dust and stuff you're breathing when you're turning them.
Just think, we used to take rotors off of cars, and then we would have them turned
and sell them.
Yeah,
we were just trying to figure out what the best thing was, and economically, it was just the best way to not do it. I mean, even like manufacturers that remanufacture engines, they find that when they get our core engine back, they will take all the valves out, throw them in the scrap pile instead of turning those valves, and a lot of the rods and different things, they just throw them away, scrap them, and recycle them in brand new parts instead of turning them, because it's cheaper overall, labor-wise, to just put brand new parts in there, and then they can say, look, they're all brand new valves instead of valves that have been touched up.
Is that the machining?
Yeah, the machining.
Cheaper? Yeah,
the machining costs more money, so it's just typically in almost every case, unless we find a rotor. There's a few trucks that will run into a rotor that might be, $160 for the
some
rotor.
oddballs here
and
there.
Somebody might want to turn it with an on-car lathe if it's thick enough. But especially with a truck, you get so much heat buildup that you're going to get a warped rotor and you're going to get an unhappy customer. So I can't. It's been at least 10 years, maybe 15, since we turned a rotor in our shop to reuse. So, yeah, that's what happens.
Now, I did brakes in a rear pickup, F-150.
Sure.
Ford, a big 4-door heavy-duty thing. and I don't remember what year it was, whatever. And she was complaining because it was squealing. The brakes were squealing. So I popped the tires off in the back, and oh, geez, she had over 3/4 pads left. I said, well, you don't need pads. I said, brakes look really nice, but what the deal is your rotors are glazed.
Yep.
Well, I don't care. She says, I want new brakes. Okay, well, then you're going to need rotors, pads, and calipers. You know, I don't save calipers in the back anymore. And okay, so and then it was about and O'Reilly's did not offer the organic pads in the back.
Right.
So I put ceramics in the back, and I should not have, because I think they were too hard of a pad, and they glazed the rotors. I mean, within 2 months, the rotors are glazed. So then I put new pads and calipers, or new pads and rotors in the back again, but I put organics in the back.
Sure.
And that so far has taken care of the problem.
Oh, very,
and I
very,
did go for a test.
Very good, Chris. We got to take a break here, Chris, on this one, okay? But
Yep.
thanks a bunch for calling.
Yep.
Okay.
Take care. All right, we're going to jump right back in. We got a stack of calls lined up here, so we're just going to jump right back in. Bob has an 01 Grand Marquis. Hey, Bob.
Hi.
What's going on with the Grand Marquis?
I was driving it, and the interior lights flashed a couple times, and then I went to get a haircut, and the headlights were on, even with the car off.
Yes.
They wouldn't shut off until I took the battery cables off.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have no headlights, no turn signals, no tail lights.
And your interior light was on too before that?
Yep.
All right. Well, that 01 Grand Marquis, we used to see this quite often, and we'd come over here to our auto recycling center, and we would search for a lighting control module. They were kind of fragile on those cars, and they would fail. I think you can still buy some new ones. Auto parts stores carry them, and the dealer may or may not carry it. You just have to see. And if none of them have it, then you may search, car-part.com or something like that to try to find it.
It's going to be a hard thing to have people have inventoried anymore. You might even look on eBay.
Yep, or go find one in a you-pull-it yard yourself. But I believe it fits the Grand Marquis, LTD, things like that. But yeah, that more than likely that's going to be the cause of your problem. For what you're describing, I don't think I've seen it ever be anything else but that. When you said that the interior light did that as well, that made me
they kind of
lean
ruled
right
out
towards
the
that.
switch on the column. It kind of points more towards that lighting control module.
I honestly think the horn honk too.
Oh.
Well, that would be a whole different thing. You'd have to look into that. That would be more of a body control module issue, but
you might double check the combo switch on the column, make sure something didn't fry in that, but that wouldn't do the interior light normally.
No. Well, we're running out of time. Thanks for the call.
Yep,
we got that's another episode of Under the Hood Down. We'll see you again next week on Under the Hood. Thanks for listening. 866-594-4150. Get lined up for the next show. Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. All right, you people listening out there in YouTube land.
Is it you people in YouTube land?
Well, if you are a person and you're still on YouTube watching, that's the only way you're going to get us if you're watching. Well, you could be on the phone already, but you can call us.
Join us.
866-594-4150. We're going to be taking calls when we're down at Barrett Jackson live like this and at different time than normal. So you can get in even now. We'll be starting the show late because Arizona's a couple hours behind us. So we got to alternate our time a little bit and call people back at a little different hour. So if you're a late riser, that'd be perfect. If you're in California, we got a girl from Hawaii called in from Maui. That's Jasmine. She said she watches on YouTube. That's how she is. So we're not ignoring you. We did hear you, but we did not want to call you at 3 a.m. because you're 5 hours behind. So it's 11 a.m. now here. So 6 o'clock.
Wow.
If I called right now, it'd be 6 a.m. and she might be out surfing already.
Could be.
I would be, because the time difference. I could be surfing at 3 a.m., but it'd be a little dark. I wouldn't want to do that. But, you get there and we're pretty fresh at 6 a.m. We're pretty fresh at 3 a.m. there at the time we normally get up. But we're going to jump into the phones here and we're going to talk to Jay in Minnesota with a Grand Prix. Hey, Jay, how you doing? Ooh, you know what? How about I do this? All right, try this again. Nope, Jay's there. Jay, can you hear us? 2000 Grand Prix.
Yes.
All right, what's going on with your Grand Prix?
This is the third time it happened now, and it'll just shut when you park it, for example, and you come back a little while later. Sometimes it won't start.
Is it a no crank or no startup?
No crank.
No crank, so nothing at all. You turn the key and it's just dead.
Yeah, but dash lights all stay bright when you hit start.
Mm-hmm.
And if the battery was dead, they'd go dim.
Right. And I think on the 2000, do you have an anti-theft light on the dash?
Yes.
Is it on when you're trying to start it and it's not starting?
It blinks. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you turn the key on, it should come on and go off. But if you crank it to the start position and it doesn't start and you let go of the key, if that theft light is on, if it's blinking or if it stays on solid, you've got a problem with the security. And those cars are famous for having a problem with the whole lock cylinder itself in the dash. The key goes in there and the tumblers are read by that. When it rotates, it's got a little sensor built into it, and they fail. They've been replaced. All the GM cars with that on-dash switch like that had issues with these at some point, and we would have to replace them and then relearn that key. So it's pretty common. I would bet that's what
most
you got going
likely
on.
culprit.
Yeah. Does a car have a remote starter system on it of any kind, factory or aftermarket?
I believe it does, because one time that it didn't start, or when I parked it, I shut the car off, got out, locked the doors, and just as I walked to the back of the car, it started.
Okay.
Back inside.
Oh, you know what? It probably has. So some of the aftermarket starters have the kind where if you lock the door twice, it will start. So find out if it's got a remote starter. You might just try to hit the lock button twice, lock it, and then hit it again. And if it starts up, that's what kind of starter it is. It's just the kind that's using an aftermarket remote starter under the dash, but it uses the lock button in order to turn it on instead of a remote. But if you can get it to start that way, that's what I'm looking for. Because if you try to start it with the key and it doesn't start, take the key out, get out of the car, close the doors, and try to remote start it. If you can remote start it, it's definitely the ignition that's the problem. If you cannot, then it's something else. You got something going on that you got to dig a little deeper in there and find out what's going on. But I got a sneaking suspicion that it's either got something to do with that ignition switch, or if it does have an aftermarket remote start, they got something going on with an aftermarket remote start that's keeping it from starting. Does that make sense?
I only use it on the farm. I don't drive it on the road at all.
Yep.
So, there's some I could put could I hook a switch to the starter and open the hood and start it?
It'll disable more than the starter when there's a problem with that. Otherwise, you could. It disables the theft system, disables the fuel and the cranking. But you could have it programmed to eliminate the security. They do make aftermarket programming software like HP tuners and things where you could pay for that, disable the security, and just turn it off. And it would be fine for a car like you have for what you're doing with it. And that's what we would suggest.
And Jay, the switch itself is not overly expensive.
No.
And on the internet, you can watch the relearn procedure. It's really it's quite easy. It's not anything you have to spend money to do. The money would be buying the switch if that and that is the most likely culprit though.
Yep. That'll get you going again.
Then you don't have to figure the rest of that stuff out, because you'll actually spend more money, I think, trying to make it not have security than you would just fixing it correctly.
Okay.
That help you out a little bit?
Yep. Hey, I also got another question. There's a 96 VW Passat diesel with a grid stick, and now the shifter just goes any old place it wants to go. It'll go around in circles.
Oh, yeah.
Shift.
Passat.
There's something.
Cables. Isn't that a cable shifter, Shannon? the Passat?
They've got a gate. There's a shift gate that sits on the floor that guides the shifter for, the procedure of first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And then that's hooked up with cables that go to the transmission. And either something has broken in that gate mechanism that's right on the floor, or the cables themselves have one of them has broken and it's allowing it just to be free. But I would have, as best you can, get somebody to watch and get down where the transmission's at and just see when you move that shifter if it's moving anything anywhere. Inspect those cables closely. But if it's just loose in there like a bad joystick, it could be that gate area is broken. That's kind of uncommon. It's usually the cables or rods, and I think that car uses cables that break, and then it'll make it just be kind of loose and not controllable.
I wonder, would a Chilton's or a Haynes magazine help any on that?
If they still have one for that car, yeah.
Yeah, they're if you had the shop manual, it definitely would.
Online manuals will be. There's some.
Yeah,
you
I don't
can
know how much
subscribe
internet you
to.
use, but on the internet you could find. If you are an internet user yourself, on YouTube, you'll find somebody that'll have a picture of replacing the cables, a video of it. If not, and you're not an internet user, find a relative that can help you out if that's not something you normally do. And I bet you could find a video of the problem in probably less than 5 minutes.
No, I got YouTube. So
Yeah, YouTube's a nice resource to give you ideas. I don't always believe everything I see because it doesn't match my make model. It doesn't match my engine size, my tranny. But sometimes I'll watch a video. I'm like, never thought of that. And so it gets you down. It gets you going down the right path.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the call, Jay.
You bet. Thank you.
Take care. We're going to jump over to Terrell in Mississippi with a 96 Dodge Dakota. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
How's that Dakota doing?
Yeah, I got crank no start, and I know the crank sensor is bad about going out on those.
Yeah.
I checked power to from the core, crank, everything. I don't get no power anywhere. And what think could be the cause of that?
Well, that has an auto shutdown relay in it, and that relay, when it powers up, they call it auto shutdown, but what it does is it powers the injectors, it powers the coils and all that stuff in there and all the sensors, the computer. And if the computer is not sending out the right signal, it will have that problem. But what we find more often on this Dakota is broken wires in the harness. And a lot of times they're near the windshield washer fill, the tank where you fill it. Fluid, as you're putting it in, spills over onto that harness and corrodes it, and inside of it you get broken wires. So if you get a manual out for it and look at the auto shutdown relay circuit and you test the power coming into that relay and find that there's no power coming into it, then that's your issue. You could jump it, you could hook a wire right to it there and hook it to the battery with a fuse and see if it starts, and if it does, then you've got a broken wire in there. But check that wiring system out. We would definitely look there. If somebody came into my shop and said, hey, this thing doesn't start, but it cranks, I would first check and see, do I have fuel pressure? And then I'd look and say, do I have any power? Oh, I'm missing power here, because that's one of the most common things. I'm going to jump it, and if it starts, then I'm going to start back tracing that system. I'm probably even going to just hook a wire up at the auto shutdown relay, put a fuse in the other end and hook it to the fuse box where it belongs and bypass the old wire. Just cut it out of there, because I'm not going to take the time to take it apart and find out where it's at, because it's going to be buried in the harness and it could be anywhere in a 3-foot section. So I usually just leave that and go on the outside with something that's older like that.
Okay. What about just checking that crank sensor? How would you check that that's the case?
If you have power, if you don't, you said you're missing power to the coil and everything, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying if I just wanted to check it.
Yeah, if you want to check it, you'll need a scanner with a lab scope built into it, and you'll hook one wire to a known good ground, and the other wire goes to the signal wire, that crankshaft sensor, and that'll work for any sensor on the car. And as you're cranking it, you can read it and you can see the waveform go up and down, above and below the line. If the crankshaft sensor's working, camshaft sensor's working, injection, all that you can see on a lab scope. And a lot of scanners include that on them now.
Okay. Appreciate that.
You bet. Thanks for the call. Take care.
All right, you too.
Yeah, those things can happen. They're crazy. You know, you get the Dodge trying to fight the wiring problems that's nuts. Hey, I think I'm going to end with a fun note and a good story. So somebody reminded me this the other day, and I had to think back about when it happened. And I thought, okay, you're an idiot. Jason Spencer's going to love that one. Oh, and listen to what happened. So a guy comes into my shop. I'm not going to tell you who he was. Local guy. His car, his Volkswagen, he says, I can't get the filler in, Russ. Can't get it in. Can't put fuel in the car. Oh, you mean it clicks off when you put it in, right? That's what we're thinking. No. I can't put it in. It won't go in the hole. Well, okay. So I look at it, take the cap off, and I take my finger and I carefully push on the door, and it opens. I said, well, it works. It's working. Go try it again. He tried it. First thing he did, he came back and he says, oh, it worked now. No problem, Russ. And then he went to stick his finger in there and open that and show me that it opened. I had to wait. Stop.
You get his finger stuck?
Don't do that. Well, why not? I said, don't put your finger in there. Because a number of years ago, and I don't think I brought it up on the show, this lady called and said, my husband stuck his finger in the hole in the gas door and it got stuck. How does he get his finger out? And I said, is this happening now? They called me on the phone at the shop when we used to have the radio show line come right in. And I said, this was like 10 years ago. I said, is this stuck in there right now? Well, yeah. And I said, well, I don't know. How do you think you should get it out? I mean, you're not supposed to put your finger in there. Well, I know, smart. You stuck your finger in there. It's not like I'm calling you because he can't get his finger out. I said, well, have you tried to take like a toothpick maybe and stick in the side? You got to lift the door open to get your finger out. He goes, well, he's got fat fingers and he stuck it in there and it won't come out. I said, well, he probably put his finger past the door.
Yeah.
And the door is sharp
wedged
on the edge from all the years of putting the filler in. They round them nicely to prevent this, but it should have a warning. Don't stick your finger in there. So I said, I don't know what you're going to do. So she says, well, I'm just going to call the fire department. And then they hung up. I was like, what do? You call the fire? He's not a kitten stuck in a tree. He's a grown man with his finger stuck in a gas hole. That's not good.
So you don't know how it ended?
I don't know how it ended, but that's as good as
I was waiting for more ending there.
That's as good as the person who she told him to get the car. Could have been the same lady. I don't know, but they were out east and they parked their car on the side of the street when they were plowing at night and it was slushy and it froze to the ground, and they came and towed the car and damaged the car, and they wanted to pay for it because they damaged it. And I said, well, you shouldn't have left the car frozen on the side of the road. That's your own fault. Should have got it off the road before the slush turned to, a foot of water flowing. Yeah, that's bad. Hard for the car, but don't put your fingers in the gas cap hole, folks. It will get stuck like the Chinese finger trap thing they make.
You don't do that.
It will jam in there and you cannot get it out with butter or anything you want. I mean, you can't get it out. You might be able to get a toothpick and raise up the door, but more than likely it's going to be stuck. And in the worst case, they're going to have to cut the side of the car off to get it out because they don't.
You'd have to figure out how to get up in there to the fuel neck.
The fuel neck comes out inwards from the inside. It doesn't come out towards you. So in order to get that thing out,
you'd have to cut the fuel neck and then pull it.
If I was the fire department and I was engineering this in my head quickly, I'd be thinking, okay, we're going to have to protect the person with blankets and we're going to have to cut the side of the car around this filler neck and then cut the neck off, take it out, and remove it. Probably surgically at a hospital if you can't get your finger out.
How bad would you cut your finger if you tried to pull it out?
Well, you would
probably fillet it off.
You would pull the skin off. You could lose a finger. So don't ever put.
How do we get onto this?
Well, we were ending the show on a good note, and I thought it was fun. So
I'm just glad it was a finger.
thanks everybody. We like to end the show on a good note. So that's the good note of the day. So Chris wasn't here. Chris, I hope you're listening at home with your sickly self and you laugh, and this makes you get all better and you feel better. So take care, everybody. Don't forget, I know Barrett Jackson's still 5 weeks off, but we're going to keep talking about it until then because it's coming. But not so much that you think that we're still going to talk for another few weeks about it, because we'll only take a couple of weeks off break, but it's coming. Take care, everybody. We'll